You got it?
Got it.
Recording. Okay. Okay. Good morning. Morning, Angela.
Good morning.
How are you doing today?
I've been better.
You mentioned something before we hit recording that seems
Mm,
like you're struggling a little bit today.
yeah, are we gonna talk? We're gonna talk about the bloat, right?
Yes. Let's
Okay.
talk about the bloat.
Yes. So, it's interesting because, it's a struggle in perimenopause/menopause with the belly weight. It's a very common struggle. And I think that it's the having the extra weight is not as bad as having extra weight and the bloat on top of it. And that's what makes you feel fat, right? And uncomfortable. Um, my Qigong teacher used to say that when you get bloated, it makes you crazy too.
Mm-hmm.
So,
The
so
wind,
it,
right? In yoga, we talk about the vayus, about the winds, right?
the actual wind or the gas wind?
The gas wind, right?
The
It's part
gas
of the
wind. Okay.
vayus. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, yes. So, we were talking about what I added to my diet is some oat milk, some instant oat milk, and I was trying to get something without seed oils and very natural, and it is very natural. But I don't think oat milk is my friend and kicks up a bunch of cravings. But this is another thing that I've been doing that I started wondering if this was also part of it. We found this kimchi at the farmer's market that's delicious. I've been eating a lot of it, a
Mm-hmm.
lot of it. And it just maybe occurred to me that that could be also part of it. But yes, the bloat is unpleasant.
Yeah, it sounds to me like you discovered a few things that are considered to be healthy foods, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like
Mm-hmm.
which they kind of come with a permission to indulge,
Yep.
no?
Yeah.
And you seem to feel the consequences of that indulgence right now a little bit with the bloating.
Yeah, you are so correct. You hit it on the head. These are healthy foods. And so my clients often say to me, I eat so clean. I eat so healthy. I eat so clean. What does that mean? And then when I get down there and dissect their diet, I'm just like, well, this is not serving you, and this is not really helping with your digestion or your metabolism or your blood sugar. So we have an idea of what is clean. And whenever someone says that to me, I just really, I disregard it. I disregard it because what we think is clean is what we are marketed to
Yeah,
believe is clean.
you bring a good point there. I was just as I was listening to you thinking about, the influence, the outside influence of our understanding has, right? Like what we think of clean, what we are marketed towards as clean, what we are marketed towards as healthy foods, the generalization of this is healthy for everybody,
And
right?
so you can have a lot of it, as you said.
Mm, yeah, yeah.
And then but it's problematic. And then you're just like, I don't know, this does not compute. So I have a story for you. 20 years ago, when I was trying to heal my gut, I had, some severe IBS digestive issues that, no doctors could help with. And I was trying this and that and to fix it, even though I was told it was incurable, which was false. I cured it. But I was doing the raw food diet. This was 20 years ago. The internet was just in the beginning stages, not just a fraction of the information that's on there right now. And the raw food diet was the it diet back then. Everybody was talking about the raw food diet and the enzymes, and it's live food and it's so detoxifying, and like it does sound correct, right? You're like, how can you
Yes, yeah.
argue with that. So I was eating this raw food diet and getting my protein from nut sources. Turns out I was sensitive to nuts. They were not working for me. But I thought, well, I can't really even eat meat. I mean, my digestion was just kind of shutting down at that point. So I was eating all these raw veggies and raw foods and nuts and um, getting worse and worse and worse and not listening to my body because I was buying into the hype, the marketing around these raw foods and all the people that it helped. And so I chose to listen to that over my own body, which was getting so much worse that like I started having new alarming symptoms from this diet that I didn't even have before, like bleeding when I went to the bathroom, which is not good, not good at all whatsoever.
Yeah.
So
So
that was,
you have been through an experience, similar, not similar because it's way less severe as it has been
oh
20
yeah,
years ago, right? But
no,
there are definitely there's discomfort involved with your current diet, let's put it that way, right? Another thing that came up, so these are two observations I can make. One is like there is a recurring theme, even though it's not as severe. It's kind of like it makes you stop and think, right? And then another thing that came up because you said like there are two factors currently in your diet that might be causal for your discomfort and for your bloating. And that is, for one, the oat milk that you think is healthy because it doesn't have any of these ingredients in there that are
no
supposed
seed
to be
oils, yeah,
exactly, no added sugars at least.
right.
And then the kimchi. And even though kimchi is fermented, so pre-digested, so to speak, so supposedly easier on your system, on your body, it is still a raw food.
Yeah, yeah, it is. And I just probably eat way too much of it. And as I'm eating it, I mean, I eat it because it's delicious. And then also as I'm eating it, I'm like, this is healthy. This is healthy. But it gives me some pause. I don't know if you've heard this, and it's maybe a little controversial, but if you have any kind of yeast overgrowth, you shouldn't eat fermented foods. It can contribute to the overgrowth, right?
Yes, there are a few indications where fermented foods are kind of counter. One is something like SIBO, where you have this bacterial overgrowth in your small intestines, or when you are having a histamine issue. That is another indication where supposedly these fermented foods can be problematic. So again, yes, not one shoe fits all. And yes, in the health community, fermented foods are promoted, like kimchi, like kombucha, right? These are very much kind of pushed onto the general public as a health food. But again, as with everything, it depends on where you are in your life, in your body, in your system. They what can be beneficial for one can be problematic for another. And then the dose, right? Like we know that saying too, right? The dose determines the poison, right?
Hmm.
Um, if it might be good in small amounts for you and beneficial, but then if it will be like a main meal, if your kimchi is a main meal every day, then it might be problematic.
Yeah, and it's also, I don't know if you said this or not, but it also is could work for you at one time in your life and then stop working for you as your
Exactly.
body change. And menopause, perimenopause is a big time of
Yeah.
change. So, and yeah,
Yeah.
and I love kombucha, and I've been a kombucha drinker probably since it was invented.
Yeah.
But I mean, became popular in stores meaning that's what I
You
meant. But
formalize.
yeah, like Dave Synergy, you know, Dave Synergy, that's that brand. I was drinking it before anyone even knew what it was, but when I have it now, it feels like I'm having a dessert and I can
Mhm.
have it in small amounts. Otherwise, it doesn't work for me anymore.
Yeah, definitely. You know, we kind of return back to the beginning statements of, yeah, perimenopause, menopause can definitely become a new ball game. And what worked for you throughout your 20s, 30s, maybe even into the 40s might be problematic now.
Yeah, so I think the
Boundary.
bottom line, the moral of this story is listen to your body.
Yes.
Don't listen to the hype. I
Yes.
cannot stress that enough. Yet I fall prey to the very, and because we're human,
Don't we all?
but
I wanted to say, don't we all? Don't we all? Yeah, yeah, for sure.
yeah, but I think I'm gonna pull back on that candida and that oat milk, and that's probably the easiest way to test it. And I have a suspicion that the bloat is gonna go away because I usually am not bloated. Um, by the way, wanted to also talk to you about I was considering doing this 30-day. I know you probably have heard of the Whole 30, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, this is the Carnivore 30. I
Mhm.
don't remember actually what it's called, but that's the idea. You do 30 days of a carnivore diet. And you can have this is so interesting. You can have the meats, and they actually are very specific about which meats you should have and which you shouldn't. Like they're really into beef and lamb, but not chicken and pork. And the reason is because they're corn fed or soy fed.
Mhm.
Um, and then dairy products, only raw dairy products are allowed, and then fruit, but no vegetables.
Very interesting. I would have guessed now non-starchy vegetables and cruciferous vegetables, but fruit. Huh, interesting.
Just, yeah, exactly. Very interesting. And you can have all the vegetables that you can have. You can have zucchini and you can have sweet potato, but that's it. Well, this particular by Heart and Bones. It's a supplement company. They're carnivores themselves, so um, it's their thing. But this I feel like is like kind of like a standard approach because I've heard and read about other people doing this. But anyway, I before I even heard of this, I just when my husband was traveling and I didn't have to cook for him, I kind of just intuitively did that, just protein and fruit, and I felt very good. And I did that for about 2 weeks, and I felt very good, and all my bloat went away.
So, you know, I'm totally interested in hearing what's happening for you in this 3 week time frame. Um, I also know of people who did programs like that. I personally never have. Um, I've done the whole 30 at one point and I fell into ketosis, and that is definitely nothing my system likes. Um, so I'm always a little wary about this, but the caveat I want to bring in here, what my knowledge now is also from the clinical setting with working with patients at the Cleveland Clinic, was that these um, diets or these different forms of meal plans for a certain time are extremely beneficial to kind of get you out of any toxins you're putting into your system or overload of getting into your system. And every overload is kind of toxic eventually, right? Um, so it kind of brings you into a homeostasis in that regard. But then if you are going over that phase, in your system. So you need maybe a different amount of time for every system. Some people are good with 3 weeks, other people need 6 weeks or 8 weeks, right? Depending on the load you have. But then it eventually it can turn. So this diet can then become a form of other dysregulation and imbalances that can cause down the line other health issues, right? So my experience so far is that they can be extremely beneficial for a certain amount of time, till you more or less worked on what kind of caused you discomfort. And then the main goal or the major goal was then again to become as flexible as possible with your system in regard to real food, meaning then you can eat more or less everything on the plate as long as it is real food,
Mhm.
unprocessed real food. But then
Mhm.
it's not like you cannot have any vegetables anymore. You cannot have, some people don't allow fruits, right? You cannot have any fruits anymore, or starchy vegetables, or pork, chicken, or whatever kind of meat there is outside, or seeds, or nuts, or corn in any form of so that's kind of like the ultimate goal, that you can draw your nutrients from all kind of areas eventually.
Yeah, I mean, that is absolutely the goal. Who wants to be on a restricted diet for the long term? I'm not for that. I think it's short term is great. I'm totally on board. It's a great elimination diet too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. I'm
So
really curious. Are they promoting also Innereien? What's it? Organ meat?
yeah,
Yeah, yeah. I love organ meat personally. I know a lot of people who kind of get grossed out by it. I love it. I love a liver, good liver once in a while. Um,
me too.
oh, good kidneys, heart. Um, I'm not. I haven't had brain much, I have to
I don't
say,
think I've ever had it.
but
I
all the
grew up eating that stuff, so that stuff and sardines and stuff that most people hate, but I grew up eating it. And I think I have a theory that, you are just comfortable with the foods that you grew up eating. And I know that a lot of Americans did not grow up eating that, and that's much more of a European, maybe Eastern European for sure, kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, kind of like what nowadays is in, talking about that again, bringing that back on the table, right? Nowadays, in a lot of health communities, there's tail to nose kind of approach. That's what previously was done, like 100 years ago, not maybe not even that far back, when everything of the animal was utilized, right?
Yeah, and I mean, I being an animal lover and not really wanting to eat meat because in my heart and soul in an ideal life I'd be a vegan, but it doesn't work for my body. But at least if I eat meat, I would like it to be happy
Mm.
meat, raised, have a good life, and use all of it.
Yeah, yeah,
So
definitely. Like even for clothes and, furniture and stuff like that, if an animal has to die for the benefit of us, then at least, utilize everything that they have to offer, right? And
yeah,
bring up the good point in, humanly raised, right?
yeah,
That's a big concept, and regenerative agriculture, right? That's part of it. Yeah.
mm, yeah,
Hey,
definitely.
so what do you say after having this um rather loose conversation about bloating and feeling heavy and a little bit maybe winded in your mind, w- what came out out of it for you?
I don't know if we talked about it in this conversation or just before we started recording, but you know, one of the things that I noticed from this experience was, you know, how addictive it is to have things that are not good for you. You know, I've read about this phenomenon, but when you experience it yourself, you're like, okay, you embody it. I felt really, when I was naturally drawn to it, I wasn't trying to eat that kind of way. I just was, for some reason, just drawn to meat and fruit. And that's what I ate when I didn't have to cook for anyone but myself. And felt good. And then I found that product, the instant oat milk, and then
which I'm to blame for, actually. So sorry.
it's okay. It's okay. I'm not blaming you at all. But it was an interesting learning opportunity because of, you know, I went from eating this lean, well, it worked for me. It worked for me kind of diet, and to something that did not work for me. And my body told me right away. And you know what's really interesting is not only is there bloat coming out this way, but it's going out the back because I have back pain now.
Mhm.
And I never have back pain. I have a feeling they're connected. And it's like, I also took a food sensitivity test many, many years ago, and it said oatmeal was not a friend of mine. And yeah. You know what was interesting though is I was eating it all the time. I was making these cookies out of it with oatmeal and a banana and nut butter, and just kept making it over and over and over again. And it never had that effect on me. And then I stopped, and I had this that did this like a little elimination diet, and I brought the oatmeal back in, and my body goes, "Oh no. No, 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 no." And that's one of the things that I like about elimination diets is that this is what I teach my clients. You might not know how you're reacting to a food because your body has just compensated for it, because it just has given up and said, instead of taking my energy and warning you this is not working, I'm going to take that energy and make it work.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And then you take it out and your body is like, whew,
Yeah. There's a
now it
point.
can repair.
Yeah. There's a
And then
point.
you put it back in and it goes, wait a minute. And then it gets loud again.
Yeah. Definitely. I full-heartedly agree to that. I full-heartedly agree to that. And that's why oftentimes our the things that you have done all your life might lead eventually to serious issues, but they are not connected to eating oatmeal for all your life, right? So they are, because there was not anymore this pressing warning signal anymore, and you are just like, oh, it's because I'm getting old, or oh, it's because my hormones shift, right? So this conversation opens up a lot of more conversations down the line, that's for sure. Um, but that's definitely a point. Yeah, and maybe we can talk about that aspect of uh, going through an elimination process at one point in your life might be very beneficial for that reason. Yeah.
Let's talk about it next time.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay.
All right.
So what about wrapping this conversation up for today?
Yeah, no, it's, you know, it's really good. I can't sort of emphasize enough just the benefit of like talking this out with people and bringing awareness to it. And it just makes me a lot more aware of the choices that I'm making and the consequences. And so it's easier to make better decisions in the future.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you, Angela.
Thank you.
Hey, till next time.